Hello everybody, my name is Kaylee. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I thought we could do a reading vlog for some books that are not popular on BookTok. I feel like a lot of my reading lately has been kind of dictated by social media and wanting to catch up on all the hype and figure out what everybody was talking about. And I kind of just miss going to the library and picking books for myself just based off of covers and not really knowing anything about them. So the first book we'll be reading in this vlog is A Big Storm Knocked It Over by Colwin. This is a literary fiction book about a woman named Jane Louise Parker. At the very beginning of the book, Jane Louise gets married to her husband Teddy, and the first few chapters so far has just been following her everyday life. Right now I am on page 62, chapter 10, so about a quarter of the way through this. So this book follows Jane Louise's point of view. She is a book cover designer living in Manhattan. The book so far follows her office life and her home life. We've met a handful of characters from Jane Louise's life so far, but we haven't really gotten anything plot-wise at the moment. Right now, I'm not really sure where the plot is going or what the point of the book is. And since I didn't really read the back of the book, I don't know what to expect. A quarter of the way into the book right now, I have a couple of issues or things that are kind of confusing me at the moment. One of the main things confusing me is society. This book was written in the 90s, so it takes place early 90s, maybe late 80s, and that is a decent amount of time before I was born. So I am not really sure what New York City and society in general really looked like at that time period. I don't know if people were more proper than they are now, if society has gotten more casual and kind of relaxed than it was. But from Jane Louise's point of view, they seem to be kind of from a socialite background, like they might be wealthy. I'm not really sure if Jane Louise is the same. I don't quite know what her background is at this moment, and if her background is why everybody seems to be wealthier, or if that just is how New York City was back then. Right now, I'm not enjoying Jane Louise as a character. I think she's incredibly insecure. I'm only on chapter 10, and she has already compared her marriage, which is I think only been 2 weeks, like she's only been married for 2 weeks, but she is comparing it to her co-workers and her friends' marriages that have existed for years. And I'm not really sure why she keeps comparing her life to theirs and her marriage to theirs. It seems like Jane Louise thought that marriage was going to be this big, huge change for her, and that everything was going to suddenly start making sense after her and Teddy, her husband, got married. But that just feels unrealistic and doesn't really make sense. I mean, at least in my opinion, I don't see how marriage could change your life overnight, especially if you've been in a relationship with this person and have been living together for a while. Then not much is going to change between you guys. Not much is going to change in your lifestyle. It's not going to fix any of your insecurities from before the marriage. Like, in my opinion, marriages just exist as a way to celebrate your love with your partner surrounded by your loved ones. It's not going to change your life in any way. It's just a celebration. Yeah, so as of right now, I'm not really liking Jane Louise as a character. Her insecurities and constant comparisons are a little frustrating to read, but we are still early in the book, so we'll see where this goes and see what happens. All right, guys. It's currently 1 week later and I am working from home, but I thought I would take a break to kind of update you guys on A Big Storm Knocked It Over. I am currently on part 3 of this book, and my main complaint right now is that I can't really connect to any of the characters. This book is only in Jane Louise's point of view, and it's very frustrating because Jane Louise sees everybody as like one-dimensional. She has a very surface level relationship with everyone in her life, including her husband and her best friend. Each of these people have a single characteristic that she focuses on, so they all feel like a placeholder. None of them feel real or substantial. They feel more like an NPC in a video game. They just kind of exist and are there. As I had mentioned in my last update, I can't really relate to Jane Louise's point of view. I have learned more about her backstory. I found out that she doesn't come from wealth. She is a Jewish woman who grew up in New York City. Her parents were in the working class, and now in her current life, she has married into a family with old money wealth, and she's surrounded by wealthier people. So this disparity between how she grew up compared to other people in her life has kind of made her desperate. She's trying really hard to fit herself into everyone else's lives and everyone else's standards and social rules. A lot of this has culminated into insecurity, so she needs a lot of reassurance from Teddy. She's incredibly anxious and overthinks a lot. And all of these qualities I feel like should have made her more relatable, because everybody has struggled with insecurities and loneliness. But honestly, I just can't stand her. I think that's because in this book, she hasn't really been given a personality. I feel like the only thing I know about Jane Louise is that she's an anxious person and that she's very insecure and constantly overthinks. I don't really know anything else about her or what she's interested in, what her family or her backstory is like. So it's hard to relate to her when the only characteristic she's been given is insecurity. One of the main things that's making me really irritated in this book is part 2, Jane Louise and Teddy end up getting pregnant. What makes this incredibly infuriating for me is that you can tell through her thought process that she is expecting this unborn child to be her main connection, that she expects this child to kind of fill the empty spot in her life and cure the loneliness and be the connection that she's always craved, which is a very unhealthy mindset for a parent to put on their child, especially when the kid hasn't even been born yet. She already is giving the energy that she'll be incredibly codependent on her child and unhealthily attached to them, when what she should be doing is focusing on making deeper connections with her husband and her friends to get that sense of belonging that she craves. Another thing that makes me incredibly irritated is that Jane Louise talks about how she isn't enough for Teddy and that she thinks that she doesn't deserve her husband, but then on multiple occasions has admitted that she wants to give in to someone hitting on her. A random male character will be hitting on her and she'll be thinking about how she wants to say yes, how she has a really hard time denying them, and how she thinks about these guys in a sexual way before during and after she gets hit on by them. How can you in one breath talk about how you're in love with your husband, how you're so glad you have him in your life, and how you would do anything for him, but then in another be talking about how you wish you could kiss your client? I just don't understand it. I don't think I could ever understand that mindset. It doesn't make sense to me. And her point of view is just incredibly difficult for me to read. I do only have a third of the book left, so I'm hoping I can just finish this out kind of quickly and be done with it. Hey guys, alright, it is 2 days later and I have finally finished A Big Storm Knocked It Over. My thoughts are about the same as the last update. I think Jane Louise was incredibly insufferable. Her anxiety and overthinking should have made her a relatable character, but I found it very hard to relate to somebody who thinks marriage and a child will resolve their insecurities. I think Jane Louise had a very unhealthy mindset, and it really made me despise her character. On top of that, the author introduced a ton of topics like interracial relationships, motherhood, class disparity, loneliness, that I wish had been delved into deeper. They were all mentioned in a very surface level way, and I felt like the book didn't really have anything to say about these topics. But I think if any of them had been talked about more and had more commentary, it would have made the book a lot more interesting and intriguing. One of my main pet peeves in this was that Jane Louise was surrounded by rich old money wealth people, but instead of focusing on differences in access to schooling, food, stability, all those things for her kid, she was more focused on the lack of material goods, which honestly just doesn't seem important when you're raising a kid. It feels like there are more important things for her to be thinking about instead of material goods. Overall, I thought the characters were one-dimensional. I thought the topics were surface level, and I honestly would have DNF'd this if I didn't need it for the Herkiad reading challenge. Honestly, not the best start to this video. Final rating from me, this will be a 1.5 out of 5. This is just a book that I should have DNF'd, and I didn't. Hopefully the next book will be better. Alright, so the next book we'll be reading in this reading vlog is The Poppy Fields by Nikki Erlick. Nikki Erlick is the author of The Measure, which blew up on TikTok maybe 2 years ago, I think. I read The Measure last year and I absolutely loved it. I thought the concept was unique, her writing was beautiful and gripping. I loved the characters and the social commentary. I thought was very interesting, and so I'm very excited to read her new release. If you've never heard of The Poppy Fields, this is about a treatment center for grief-stricken patients. The people who go to the poppy fields are put into a 1 to 2 month sleep that should help them move past their grief. In theory, when they wake up, their grief is fast forwarded to the acceptance stage. Right now, I am about 100 pages in, so a third of the way through. I am enjoying this way more than A Big Storm Knocked It Over. At this point in the book, we have already been introduced to our 5 main characters. 3 of them, Sasha, Ray, and Ava, are currently on a road trip to California to the poppy fields. One of the main characters, Ellis, is the founder of the poppy fields, and the last main character, Sky, is a fresh high school graduate who is looking to explore the world. I am not quite sure what Sky's role is in this story yet, but if this is anything like The Measure, I know that Sky will come into play later on in the story. My favorite thing about Nikki Erlick's writing is that she will take these really unique concepts and look at the ramifications of them in detail. She usually mentions a ton of societal issues that I feel like most authors would just brush over or not even think about. And even if those issues are brought up in a brief paragraph, they all make you think. My favorite example of this so far in the Poppy Fields is from Ellis's point of view. Ellis is thinking about what would happen to the treatment center once capitalism kind of takes over and the treatment center is turned into a for-profit organization. And so Ellis worries that the sleep treatment will eventually be used as punishment for women and children in abusive relationships or families, since it will be based on who can pay for the treatment rather than who needs the treatment. So far, I am really enjoying this book. I think the premise is intriguing. The chapters are very short, which is a great change from the last book. And the way that Nikki Erlick writes, she likes to drop random tidbits of information right at the end of the chapter that makes you want to keep reading. I'm very excited to continue on in this book and see where we go. Hey guys, it's a couple days later and I have finished The Poppy Fields. I really enjoyed this book. I thought Nikki Erlick did such a good job of showing the different kinds of grief and how grief shows up differently in people. Not only did we get to see the various grief journeys of the main characters, but the inclusion of patient interviews prior to their sleep treatment helped humanize unnamed patients at the Poppy Fields, and it allowed the readers to understand why a person would consider a treatment like this. I really loved watching how all the individual stories connect and come together. Reading Nikki Erlick's books always makes the world seem like a smaller, more intimately connected place. And they show how you can touch people, like how you can touch random people's lives in unexpected ways. I thought that each version of grief was very realistic, very believable. And despite talking about a heavy subject like grief, this book left me with a feeling of hope. The writing and the structure of The Poppy Fields was very similar to The Measure, and while I think The Measure did it better, I still really enjoyed this book. I think I'll give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really loved the premise. I loved the writing, but I wasn't as connected to the characters as I had hoped I would be. And I think that there was an unnecessary romantic relationship that was kind of hinted at throughout the story that really didn't need to be there. So yeah, that is book 2 of this reading vlog finished. And with that, I think we'll leave it there. If you guys liked this video and want to see more, make sure you like and subscribe. Comment down below if you've read either of these books or if you want to see me do another reading vlog like this. I have a few more non-Booktok books on my TBR. With that, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Bye!